Liu Yi traveled to the three kingdoms, but due to the process, his mind was infused with too much knowledge and information, causing his brain to collapse and lose his memory. Liu Yi, who was lost in memory and confused, was picked up by the kind Cai Yan. As his memory gradually recovered, the knowledge that Liu Yi had mastered was gradually exposed. What? Are you a calligraphy master? Can you write in regular script? Or literary masters? Can you do going to drink? What? Are you a divine doctor? Can acupuncture and moxibustion bring the dead back to life? Can antibiotics still be produced? What? Can you make salt? Can steel be made? Can you make a curved plow? What? Do you still know the secrets of heaven and how the history of future generations has evolved? Unconsciously, as Liu Yi exposed his memories, countless famous generals and strategists joined under his command. When Liu Yi regained all his memories, he realized. The three kingdoms are already in my own hands. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Journey Through Amnesia, picked up by Wenji. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Liu Yi has traveled through time. The scene before us is constantly changing, transitioning from modern to modern, and then back to ancient times, becoming more and more ancient. Liu Yi has seen people with braids, seen people using curved plows to farm, seen people secretly selling illegal salt, seen swords and shadows, and seen corpses and mountains of blood during the process of scene switching. Countless knowledge messages flooded into Liu Yi's mind. Finally. Fix the scene. From a bird's eye perspective, Liu Yi vaguely saw a flag with the words, "The sky is dead, the yellow sky should stand." Afterwards, due to too much knowledge and information in my mind, I couldn't digest it and fainted. In his coma, Liu Yi only vaguely felt an anxious and gentle female voice shaking his body. Yong County. Cai Yong's mansion. In the Han Dynasty, Cai Yong was undoubtedly a renowned scholar. But at this time in Yong County, Cai Yong is just a guilty person. Fortunately, Cai Yong came from a long-standing aristocratic family. Although the family had declined, his life was not as impoverished as that of ordinary people. However, his life became even more difficult as his daughter Cai Yan picked up a man named Liu Yi. Although Liu Yi had great strength, he suffered from dissociation syndrome, lost his memory, and was unaware of everything, like a newborn child. Cai Yong has always wanted to find something to do for him, but whenever others discover that he has cognitive problems, they are unwilling to take him in. Cai Yan also couldn't bear to let him go out to work, fearing that he would be bullied, which made Cai Yong feel very anxious. Liu Yi's memory seems to have only retained his own understanding, while the rest is blank. He would only sit under the eaves every day, staring at the blue sky, as if searching for lost moments. Occasionally, he would mutter to himself, revealing puzzling information between his words. Cai Yan witnessed this scene and his heart was filled with sorrow. Holding ancient books, seeing Liu Yi once again lost in thought, her sighs were imperceptible. Liu Yi has a handsome appearance and fair skin that is enough to make women envious, but his mental state is regrettable. "Brother Liu, why are you sitting here alone again?" Cai Yan asked with concern, seeing Liu Yi looking up at the sky again, lost in thought. "I'm looking at the stars in the sky," Liu Yi replied with a silly smile. "Where are there any stars in the daytime?" Cai Yan looked up at the sky, only to see the clouds lingering and nothing else. "Yes, it's just overshadowed by the sunlight." Liu Yi extended his finger as if to reveal some mystery. "Really? Can you really see the stars?" Cai Yan asked curiously. "I can't see it, but I know there are countless stars in the sky. They are the same size as the sun, or even larger, which I used to see often." Liu Yi frowned, as if digging deep into his memory, but his words seemed more like nonsense in Cai Yan's ears. How could this be possible? How could the stars be bigger than the sun? Cai Yan shook his head, his eyes filled with sympathy for Liu Yi. Really, I'm not lying to you. I've seen it on an astronomical telescope before. Liu Yi's eyes lit up instantly, and then he fell into a fog. Why do I remember an astronomical telescope? What is an astronomical telescope? Cai Yan shook his head again and decided not to delve deeper. Alright, Brother Liu, don't think about that anymore. Let me teach you how to read. Seeing Liu Yi's confusion, Cai Yan couldn't bear it and changed the topic. She spread out the bamboo slips and pointed to the first character. This is the character Liu, which comes from Lu's spring and autumn annals and is also a surname. Liu Yi learned very quickly, and Cai Yan joyfully praised him and began teaching writing. In that era, children often practiced calligraphy on a sand table, and Cai Yan took a branch and demonstrated it on the ground. Liu Yi took the branch and fluently wrote the word Lu and several other words on the sand. Cai Yan was surprised to find that these handwriting were not only neat, but also contained a unique charm, clearly from the pen of a master. Brother Liu, so you know how to write. Have you been hiding from me before? Cai Yan's gaze was filled with both pity and admiration. I'm not sure, Liu Yi answered in confusion. Cai Yan couldn't detect any deception from his expression, and secretly speculated that Liu Yi's outstanding appearance and exquisite calligraphy must have come from a prestigious family. I don't know what kind of experience made him forget everything. Brother Liu, write a few more words for me to see. Cai Yan couldn't bear to look directly at Liu Yi's confusion and changed the topic once again. This time, Liu Yi wrote more words, and Cai Yan found that these handwriting were more dignified, like carving with a knife. Upon closer examination, she found that these fonts seemed to have developed based on the previous writing style, with intricate connections between the two. Cai Yan also loved learning, and when he saw Liu Yi's words, his heart was filled with enthusiasm. She made up her mind to help Liu Yi regain his memory no matter what, otherwise it would be too regrettable. Brother Liu, please wait here while I go and call my father over. Cai Yan finished his instructions and eagerly went to find Cai Yong. At first, Cai Yong was skeptical of his daughter's words, but eventually came to investigate at her insistence. Seeing the handwriting on the ground, Cai Yong was also stunned. Cai Yan was still young and his knowledge was not yet mature, making it difficult to discern many subtle details. And Cai Yong's calligraphy cultivation has reached a high level, although not as advanced as Zhong Yao in later generations, it can also be called a master. In his eyes, although Liu Yi's handwriting lacks spirituality, the overall structure is rigorous, the layout is harmonious, and every stroke is perfectly grasped, flawless. Such accomplishments cannot be achieved without years of hard practice and extraordinary talent. As a calligraphy enthusiast, Cai Yong's eyes twinkled with excitement when facing Liu Yi's words, as if a hungry person had met a delicious braised pork belly. Chapter 2. Memory awakens slightly, Calligraphy Master. You are listening at novel-full.audio. Under the gaze of Cai Yong, Liu Yi's two-series calligraphy style not only showcased mature character, but also exuded an indescribable unique charm. If this is an original work by Liu Yi, then his expertise in the field of calligraphy is comparable to that of a great master. As a scholar with a deep affection for calligraphy, Cai Yong suddenly realized that the so-called amnesiac brought back by his daughter from the outside world was actually an undiscovered treasure. Even if these calligraphic works are not original by Liu Yi, his ability to refine his skills to such an exquisite level alone is enough to prove his position as a calligraphy master. Cai Yong looked at Liu Yi again, his gaze no longer filled with disdain, but rather like appreciating rare treasures. His eyes flickered with almost ecstatic light, saying, Liu Xian.As, are these handwriting really handwritten by you? Cai Yong excitedly and affectionately referred to him as Liu Xian.As, but Liu Yi only responded with a bewildered and silent expression. Cai Yong felt a slight displeasure upon seeing the situation and said, Ah Liu, I am asking you, were these words written by you personally? I can write, I can write, but why do I remember? Liu Yi's response seemed normal at first, but then fell into the chaos of self-talk, appearing somewhat confused. But Cai Yong's inner dissatisfaction inexplicably dissipated. The young man in front of Cai Yong felt pity in his heart. Being able to wield his brush and ink to this level, Liu Yi must have been outstanding and extraordinary in the past. An unknown incident led him to his current state. Cai Yong grew tired of Liu Yi's previously confused image, but now he feels that every feature of him has become adorable. His delicate face, fair skin color, and robust physique are all admirable. Cai Yong sighed inwardly. There was no sadness in this sigh, only joy. Thanks to Liu Yi's appearance, Cai Yong was able to glimpse a new realm of calligraphy art, and this joy is indescribable. From then on, the troubles of having an extra diner at home no longer troubled Cai Yong. Although life may add hardships, being able to shelter a calligrapher is a great honor for the Cai family, enough to shine on their family. In the future, when it comes to this matter, the Cai family will also be respected. So, Cai Yong allowed Cai Yan to teach Liu Yi poetry and books day after day, and deep down, he hoped that this amnesiac could recover as soon as possible. Sometimes, when visitors come to admire Liu Yi's calligraphy, Cai Yong proudly displays Liu Yi's works, showing off some of them, but also earning him some reputation. People who knew the goods began to ask Liu Yi for words. Although Cai Yong was ashamed to ask for money, there were always some kind-hearted people who voluntarily gave gifts, which prevented Liu Yi from completely relying on the Cai family. Although Cai Yong was loyal and kind, he was well aware of the value of Liu Yi's works, so he would not casually let Liu Yi write for outsiders. Xianyang County, Weiyuan County, is located on the northern edge of Bingzhou. Han people and grassland tribes coexist in a chaotic land, with frequent wars and fierce folk customs. The Cai family moved here and rarely went out. After accepting Liu Yi, it seems that the safety of the Cai family has been provided with additional guarantees. Liu Yi appears weak on the outside, but in reality, he has boundless strength and can easily move 100 pounds of heavy objects. Therefore, when the Cai family goes out, they often accompany Liu Yi, especially Cai Yan. Previously, due to safety concerns, she dared not venture into the streets, but now with Liu Yi accompanying her, she is like a bird released from its cage, often dragging Liu Yi around the streets. Cai Yan was in the prime of his youth, at the age of 14, when he was lively and active. Although Yangxian County in Xi'an is dilapidated, there are also several bustling streets with a population of nearly 10,000, and there is no shortage of lively scenes. Cai Yong has great affection for his beloved daughter and does not strictly regulate her on a daily basis. With Liu Yi's company, Cai Yong felt at ease and allowed Cai Yan to go out. "Brother Liu, why remain silent? Do you think this place is not interesting enough?" Cai Yan noticed that Liu Yi was staring blankly at a homeless man on the roadside. That person has a strong physique, but a haggard appearance, tattered clothes, and looks like a beggar. This type of homeless man is not uncommon. In recent years, the Great Han Dynasty has suffered frequent natural and man-made disasters, coupled with the Yellow Turban Rebellion, resulting in numerous displaced persons in various northern regions. There are still military forces maintaining order within the city, while starvation can be seen everywhere in the suburbs. People have long become accustomed to homeless people. Upon hearing the sound, Liu Yi turned his head and pointed to the person, saying, "He's sick. He's sick, and you're not a doctor. What can you do?" Cai Yan was kind-hearted, but his family was also struggling and unable to help others. When she took in Liu Yi, not only did she remove his unique yet neat clothes, but also his handsome appearance, which touched her sympathy. "I can cure him," Liu Yi exclaimed in astonishment, his expression suddenly changing. At that moment, Cai Yan almost doubted whether he had read it wrong. At this moment, Liu Yi seemed to be an outstanding and independent sage, which impressed her. "Can you really cure his illness?" After Liu Yi demonstrated his calligraphy talent, Cai Yan believed that he was a knowledgeable person, but his memory was temporarily lost. Therefore, when Liu Yi claimed to be able to treat the disease, Cai Yan did not question it too much. The various abnormalities on Liu Yi's body, such as his strength as strong as an ox, have long made it impossible to consider him an ordinary person. I'm not sure, but when I saw him, I felt like I could cure his illness. Liu Yi's expression returned to confusion, and Cai Yan couldn't help but sigh. She has always longed for Liu Yi to return to normalcy as soon as possible, so she tried every means to teach him, hoping to awaken his memory with this. Brother Liu, since that's the case, why not give him a try to treat his illness? Perhaps this can make you remember more things, Cai Yan comforted. Regardless of whether Liu Yi is truly capable of treating illness, Cai Yan believes it is worth a try. Perhaps this path can become the key to unlocking Liu Yi's memory lock. Liu Yi agreed, but did not take immediate action. Cai Yan took his hand and walked towards the homeless man. The homeless man, despite his haggard appearance, exuded an extraordinary aura and was now leaning against the wall, falling asleep. Liu Yi approached Cai Yan and reached out to touch the homeless man's forehead, saying, "He is suffering from a high fever and seems to have not eaten for many days." After Liu Yi finished speaking, his expression became clear again, and a glimmer of light flashed in Cai Yan's eyes. "What medication should we give him?" Chapter 3. Are you still a divine doctor? I saved Gao Shun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Liu Yi did not provide a direct answer to Cai Yan's proposal. He simply nodded lightly and then shook his head slowly. This series of contradictory actions left Cai Yan confused. What do you mean by nodding and shaking your head? If you need medicinal herbs, we can go to the pharmacy to buy them. There is no need for medicine. He is trapped by hunger and mild cold. I can relieve him with acupuncture and moxibustion. Liu Yi explained, and then touched the empty skirt, as if aware of something. A faint worry appeared between his eyebrows. Acupuncture and moxibustion. But we don't have medical silver needles at home, so it's better to go to the drugstore. Cai Yan didn't catch Liu Yi's subtle mood fluctuations. She had no doubt about Liu Yi's words, and was about to suggest that the homeless be sent to the drugstore. But he saw that Liu Yi had easily lifted the homeless man and walked steadily forward. It takes money to go to the pharmacy, and the family is financially strapped, so there is hardly any extra money left. Liu Yi spoke softly. This kind consideration for his family stirred up warm ripples in Cai Yan's heart. Brother Liu, I sincerely hope you recover soon. Cai Yan spoke softly, with a gentle light shining in his eyes. Since she brought Liu Yi home, she found herself increasingly enjoying the time spent with him. Although Liu Yi's occasional dullness made her feel pity, the days spent with him were always filled with laughter. Cai Yan did not realize that his emotions towards Liu Yi had surpassed pure sympathy and contained more motherly care. Liu Yi's innocence is like that of a child. Cai Yan teaches and takes care of him day after day, just like nurturing a life that needs care. Over time, emotions arise naturally. This emotion is not related to the relationship between men and women, but to deep family ties. With astonishing strength, Liu Yi easily lifted the tall homeless man. The homeless man had a burly body, while Liu Yi, although seemingly thin, exuded a resilient spirit. After being picked up, the homeless man woke up and briefly met Liu Yi's 4 eyes, then closed his eyes and rested. Cai Yong witnessed Liu Yi carrying someone back, his heart full of confusion. How many unknown secrets are hidden in this amnesiac brought back by his daughter? He not only has the ability to wield his brush and splash ink, but also has tremendous power. Now he claims to be able to treat people's illnesses. How many unknown abilities do he still possess? However, Cai Yong couldn't afford to delve into Liu Yi's background at the moment. His first concern was how to deal with the livelihood issues after adding another member to the family. Liu Xian niece, why did you carry the person back? This. Cai Yong hesitated to speak, and his family's financial situation was already tight. As a scholar, he was now in a state of decline and difficult to speak of. Although Cai Yong had some small businesses in Chen Lu's hometown, most of them were jointly owned by the Cai family, and there were not many that truly belonged to him. As the glory of the Cai family in the past, the family never let him suffer from poverty. Now that he is charged, the family naturally will not come from afar to provide relief. The money he carried with him was also depleted long ago. "Uncle, he's sick." "I know he's sick, what I mean is. Yenner, how can you let Liu Yi bring him back? Don't you know the situation at home?" Cai Yong always held a noble self-esteem and couldn't directly confess to Liu Yi about his poor family situation. After all, Liu Yi was not a blood relative of the Cai family. "Father, I just want big brother Liu to do what he can to help him regain his past memories as soon as possible." Cai Yan was well aware of the family's difficulties, and in the face of her father's questioning, she unconsciously lowered her head. She has a kind heart and a desire to help others, but at the same time, she also understands that her father has broken his heart for the family. As a literati, Cai Yong was not familiar with secular affairs. In places like Wuyuan County, it was particularly difficult for literati to make a living. Cai Yong sighed and didn't say more. Liu Yi simply placed the homeless man in his own dormitory. Not long after, Cai Yan followed and wanted to observe how Liu Yi was governing, but found that Liu Yi did not take immediate action, but instead searched through his own stall. "Brother Liu, what are you looking for?" Cai Yan asked with concern as he saw that Liu Yi seemed to be searching for something. "I'm not sure, I feel like there's something missing, but I can't remember." Liu Yi scratched his head, furrowed his brow, looking very distressed. "Brother Liu, is this all?" Cai Yan took out a package from a corner of the room, which was the item she had with Liu Yi when she first met him. Due to Liu Yi's foolish state, Cai Yan and his father did not understand the purpose of these items, so they put them away together with the replaced clothes and placed them in a corner. Liu Yi unpacked the package, which contained not only a few old clothes, but also a pair of glasses, a lighter, a string of keys, and a belt. Liu Yi picked up the belt and key and said, "Sell it for money." The belt buckle is a gold-plated tiger head with exquisite craftsmanship, appearing majestic and dignified. In addition to a few keys, there is also a guanine pendant hanging on the keychain that can emit light in the dark. These rare objects in later generations appear particularly precious in this era. "Brother Liu, do you want to sell these? But these seem valuable, maybe they can help you find your family in the future." Although Cai Yan was unsure of the specific purpose of these items, her intuition told her that they were important items for Liu Yi, and she couldn't bear to see him sell them at a low price. In the environment of Wuyuan County, there are very few wealthy people, so it is difficult to sell these treasures at a fair price. "Sell it for money, buy grain." Liu Yi smiled foolishly, and the innocence contained in this smile made Cai Yan feel that his inner simplicity was heartbreaking. Cai Yan hesitated for a moment before finally taking the belt. Although the buckle is exquisitely crafted, the material is not precious metal, so she decided to sell this belt first. "Brother Liu, if you really want to sell it, just sell this one." Cai Yan was not someone who was greedy for small gains, but the family's financial difficulties and her father's hard work forced her to make a choice. She walked out of the room holding a belt, tears flickering in the corners of her eyes, and her heart was filled with mixed emotions. Chapter 4. Remembering Gunsmanship Awakens, Gao Shun adopts his master. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The sunlight pierced through the gaps in the leaves and gently scattered around Liu Yi under the eaves, forming an interweaving of light and shadow. Gao Shun, also known as the homeless man, looked at Liu Yi with a hint of annoyance as he fell into contemplation. As for Gao Shun's high fever, Liu Yi only used acupuncture and moxibustion once to let Gao Shun get rid of the fever. He gave Gao Shun 2 bowls of rice porridge, and Gao Shun recovered. Although Gao Shun was not good at speaking, he couldn't help feeling a bit speechless when facing a companion who seemed to be in a state of stagnation forever. In order to dispel this silent awkwardness, Gao Shun tried to stir up the topic, while Liu Yi responded with a simple and sincere smile without much words. The two sat quietly like this, and the atmosphere seemed particularly strange. So, Gao Shun found a thick wooden stick and began practicing martial arts in the courtyard to pass the time. At this moment, Liu Yi suddenly came to his senses from contemplation, his gaze fixed on Gao Shun's waving stick shadow, shaking his head repeatedly, as if silently pointing out the inappropriate aspects of Gao Shun's movements. Lu Gongzi, is there something lacking in my martial arts skills? Gao Shun felt somewhat embarrassed and unhappy, as he had always been confident in his martial arts skills. After all, his inherited skills were rare in the countryside. But the seemingly foolish Liu Yi in front of him, who looked more like a weak scholar, challenged his self-esteem in his heart. I don't know. Liu Yi's answer remained concise as always, almost becoming his fixed reply. Although Gao Shun and Liu Yi have been together for a short time, every time they hear this sentence, they can't help but burst into laughter. However, Liu Yi's next words shook Gao Shun's heart. However, I see that your practice seems to have many loopholes, and the use of strength is not appropriate. The overall feeling is not coordinated. So, young master is also a martial artist. Can you teach him a little? Although Gao Shun knew that Liu Yi had boundless strength, he ignored his martial arts skills due to his weak appearance. Liu Yi stood up and took the wooden stick from Gao Shun's hand. In an instant, he seemed to have transformed into a different person, and his previous dullness was swept away. His handsome face and clear eyes made Gao Shun feel ashamed of himself. Liu Yi held a wooden stick and gently waved it, causing the tip of the stick to turn into a series of flowing firecrackers. The precision of his strength and superb skills amazed Gao Shun, who boasted of his exceptional martial arts skills. Subsequently, Liu Yi demonstrated a set of marksmanship, which was as powerful as a bamboo. Even the fallen leaves on the ground were swept into the wind and danced gracefully. Gao Shun was stunned and thought to himself that if he fought against Liu Yi, he might find it difficult to sustain 10 moves. This set of guns is called the Rainstorm Pear Flower Gun. I can't remember the origin of this set of guns, but the gun technique is clearly left in my memory. Next, there is the Yu family gun. Please watch carefully. Liu Yi demonstrated the set and then changed to another style. This set of marksmanship may seem simple, lacking gorgeous moves, but it adds a touch of cold and murderous aura, allowing Gao Shun to feel the atmosphere of practical combat from it. Liu Yi showcased several different marksmanships in a row. The more he spread them out, the more he changed the wooden stick into a stick technique in his hand, and sometimes it transformed into a knife technique. The sound of breaking through the air was constant in his ears. Gao Shun saw heavy shadows of the stick, while Liu Yi seemed to be an elf dancing with the shadow, with unique and erratic steps. Gao Shun understood in his heart that true martial arts were not meant to show off his skills, but every move of Liu Yi appeared so pleasing to the eye, which he sincerely admired. In later words, this feeling is one of sincere conviction. As a tough guy who grew up in Bingzhou, Gao Shun fought against people and nature from a young age, and had a natural reverence for those with high martial arts skills. Even if the other party is a villain, it will attract others to follow. Just as Gao Shun was about to applaud, he saw that the wooden stick broke off due to Liu Yi's powerful internal force, flying towards the sky at one end and being held in Liu Yi's hand at the other end. Liu Yi stared blankly at the broken stick in his hand, while the head of the flying stick curved in the air and landed unbiased on Liu Yi's head, as if he had not dodged due to his dementia. The wooden stick lightly tapped on his head, making a dull sound. Upon seeing this, Gao Shun instinctively twitched. He looked at Liu Yi's expressionless face after being hit, and understood in his heart that Prince Liu had returned to that state of amnesia. He was about to step forward to show concern, but Liu Yi put down his broken stick and sat back under the eaves. His gaze was empty as he looked up at the sky, muttering to himself in a low voice, "What's going on here? How could I do this? I shouldn't have understood this. I remember I was Liu Yi, but why do I feel like I'm not like Liu Yi anymore? Although Gao Shun had not known Liu Yi for long, he learned from Cai Yan that Liu Gongzi seemed to have gone through an accident and lost all his memories. Looking at Liu Yi's current situation, Gao Shun dared not disturb him for fear of interrupting his thoughts. Although Liu Yi sometimes shows a foolish side, Gao Shun never underestimates him. For warriors, seeing superb martial arts skills is like seeing countless gold and silver treasures, and their hearts naturally rejoice. Gao Shun wished he could kneel down immediately and begged Liu Yi to accept him as his disciple. In ancient times, martial arts were not passed down to one's parents or teachers. The only way to learn Liu Yi's martial arts was through apprenticeship. Gao Shun sat cautiously next to Liu Yi, not daring to disturb him. However, the tranquility was soon shattered, and several unwelcome guests pushed open the wooden door and boldly entered the hospital. The leader looked at Liu Yi and Gao Shun with disdain and arrogance, asking, "Hey, you two, is this the residence of Cai Yong in Cai? This person has an arrogant attitude." Gao Shun sees it in his eyes and is angry in his heart. He was worried that someone might disturb Liu Yi, but unfortunately, such an unintelligent person appeared. He intended to ignore it, but Liu Yi unexpectedly stood up and answered seriously, "This is Uncle's house, not Uncle Cai's house. I don't know any Cai, I'm afraid you found the wrong place." The memories in Liu Yi's mind were very chaotic, with a large number of different messages intertwined, making it difficult for him to distinguish. So much so that he was very familiar with the name Cai, but couldn't remember who it was. I'll just say it, no wonder the servant is so rude, sitting and lying casually. How could someone like Cai be so unruly? The person snorted and left with his followers. Inside the room, Cai Yong was discussing knowledge with Cai Yan. When he heard the commotion outside, he walked out to investigate. However, the person had already gone, and Cai Yong didn't think much. Instead, he asked Liu Yi, "Dear nephew, who were those people just now?" Since Liu Yi handed over the belt to Cai Yan a few days ago, Cai Yong, who had always been honest, was filled with guilt in his heart. Although he was not materialistic, the hardships of life forced him to sell Liu Yi's belt in exchange for over 1,000 kilograms of grain from the chief clerk of Yong County in Xian. In this era of material scarcity, especially in places like Yong County in Xian, food is particularly precious. Upon hearing this, Liu Yi first rubbed his hair in distress. After pondering for a moment, his eyes suddenly lit up and he said to Cai Yong, "I remember." Chapter 5. Rong comes to the door and suffers a wretched face. You are listening at novel.full.audio. I remember, Liu Yi's tone was mixed with a spark of excitement. The name Cai Yong and Cai Boji seemed to echo somewhere, vaguely remembering that he had a daughter, Cai Yan, who also left a heavy mark in history. Upon hearing these words, Cai Yong's lips curved with a hint of helplessness and humor. This famous figure in the literary world of the Han Dynasty has become a vague presence in Liu Yi's memory, which is both amusing and amusing. Liu Xian niece, I am Cai Yong and Cai Boji. Why do you have to work so hard to recall? He joked to himself, after all, his reputation is well known, even passers-by may have heard of him. However, Cai Yong did not realize the profound meaning behind Liu Yi's so-called remembering. The fragmented information in Liu Yi's mind does not originate from daily life, but from a distant historical memory in time and space, stories that have been submerged by the tide of time, rather than the living Cai Yong in front of him. Liu Yi's brain was flooded with too much information as he traveled through time and space. Excessive memory leads to the inability of the brain to process it, making him known as a person with dissociative disorder, also known as amnesia. However, the self-healing mechanism of the brain quietly plays a role. Since Cai Yan rescued him, as time passed, Liu Yi's cognitive ability slowly recovered and scattered memory fragments began to piece together. Although these memories were like scattered pearls that could not be strung into a complete necklace, they were enough to occasionally showcase his amazing talent, making Cai Yong, Cai Yan, and even Gao Shun stand out. Liu Yi did not understand the profound meaning behind Cai Yong's joking words and remained immersed in his own logic. Cai Yong and Cai Yan are both literati. By the way, what are literati? They seem to be ancient people. Cai Yong looked at Liu Yi's self-talking expression, shook his head helplessly, turned around and left, ignoring him. He looked at the wooden door that had been rudely pushed open, lost interest in exploring the identity of the visitor, and returned straight to the house. Gao Shun witnessed Liu Yi's diligent and contemplative expression, feeling anxious in his heart. If such an extraordinary warrior continues like this, wouldn't it be sad? Cai Yong has become accustomed to Liu Yi's amnesia, so he did not pay too much attention to Liu Yi's words. In the eyes of ordinary people, the words of a person with amnesia often lack logic, and no one will seek meaning from these words. But every extraordinary performance of Liu Yi deeply shook Gao Shun, and coupled with the fact that the two of them have not yet fully adapted to Liu Yi's identity as an amnesiac. Moreover, Liu Yi once saved Gao Shun's life. In terms of emotion and reason, Gao Shun did not want to disturb his thoughts. The previous visitor, guided by others, discovered that Cai Yong and Cai Boji were actually living in the house they had just inquired about. He angrily led the people back and shouted loudly into the room, "Cai Boji, are you at home? When I, Zhuo Weiming, came to visit, how dare your servant play tricks on me? Cai Boji, what is your way of treating guests?" Zhuo Rong was somewhat famous, serving as the magistrate of Xianbei under the command of Tao Qian. He was known for his smooth techniques and close relationship with Buddhist disciples. He had great ambitions and intended to leverage the reputation of Cai Yong to enhance the influence of the bathing Buddha festival he held, so he went with his followers to Wuyuan County. Zhuo Rong has a hot-tempered personality, which is out of place with his image as a Buddhist leader. He often lashes his subordinates on a daily basis. Being fooled by Liu Yi, who appeared to be humble, naturally ignited anger. His clamor aroused Gao Shun's dissatisfaction. "This is the Cai mansion. Who is your excellency, who dares to make noise and be rude here?" Gao Shun had some understanding of Cai Yong's position among the gentry, and even though Cai Yong was now in a state of decline, the dignity of the gentry could not be violated. His words were legitimate, but to Zhuo Rong's ears, they became provocations. Zhuo Rong was even more furious when he saw a servant dare to confront him. Even a mere servant would dare to be rude to Zhuo Weiming. Zhuo Rong came from an ordinary background and achieved his current position through Tao Qian's promotion. This persistent situation made him particularly sensitive to the attitudes of others towards him. He can tolerate insults from people above him, but any disrespect towards people below him is unbearable. Gao Shun comes from a general family and has achieved remarkable military achievements in his ancestors. Even if his family falls, his pride still lingers in his bones. Faced with Zhuo Rong's arrogance, he just snorted coldly and did not respond much. Liu Yi looked at Zhuo Rong curiously on the side, pondered for a moment, and then said seriously to him, "I remember you just came to see Cai Yong and Cai Boji. Did you make a mistake and come here to act wildly?" Cai Yong was a great literary scholar of the Han dynasty. How could you meet him? In Liu Yi's memory, Cai Yong was from the Han dynasty, so Zhuo Rong couldn't see him in front of him. You. You're really infuriating me. Zhuo Rong's fingers trembled as he pointed at Liu Yi, feeling momentarily speechless. In terms of identity, if it weren't for Cai Yong's downfall, Zhuo Rong really wouldn't be qualified to see Cai Yong. Zhuo Rong secretly cursed in his heart that Cai Yong's family education was not strict, and his servants were even more arrogant than himself. Cai Yong heard the sound and came out, seeing that Zhuo Rong and his group were arguing with Liu Yi and Gao Shun. He took a few steps forward, intending to intervene. Unexpectedly, Gao Shun had already taken the lead and politely welcomed him. Chapter 6. Xianbei comes, Cai Yong escapes. You are listening at novel full.audio. How could you be so rude, pointing at my young master? Gao Shun flicked Zhuo Rong's finger towards Liu Yi. In such a society where etiquette is paramount, even simple finger-pointing actions are extremely disrespectful to people. Especially for those with prominent identities. Gao Shun is well aware of the special state of Liu Yi's amnesia, so he stepped forward to defend Liu Yi's dignity. Cai Yong also caught Zhuo Rong's impolite behavior. In the Han dynasty, there was a clear boundary between scholars and commoners, and the literati and officials attached great importance to each other's etiquette and respect. As a guest of the Cai mansion, any disrespect received by Liu Yi undoubtedly tarnished Cai Yong's face as the host. In the eyes of Cai Yong, a literary and refined scholar, Liu Yi's calligraphy talent is comparable to everyone else, revealing a profound family background. In the eyes of Gao Shun, a martial artist, Liu Yi's martial arts are unparalleled, undoubtedly possessing the demeanor of a general. Although Liu Yi is currently in a difficult situation, he is not a character that can be easily underestimated. Zhuo Rong's actions made Cai Yong's evaluation of him even lower, and he did not even take the initiative to pay tribute to him. Zhuo Rong is a complex character. He was once a subordinate of Tao Qian, betrayed due to his selfish desires, and fled because he couldn't beat Tao Qian. After wandering between Zhao Yu and Shueli, each time ending in betrayal and bloodshed, he finally found a refuge with Zhu Hao, a subordinate of Liu Yao, and his actions were despicable. Zhuo Rong harbors inflated ambitions and limited abilities, with a fierce heart. Although he invited Cai Yong to participate in the grand ceremony of bathing Buddha, he overreacted to subtle disrespect. Zhuo Rong, who self-proclaimed himself as the reincarnation of Shibarata, became increasingly arrogant with the support of his followers and threatened to repay anyone who challenged his authority. In history, Zhuo Rong was beheaded by the people of Shanyu due to his numerous evil deeds, and his head was sent as a trophy to Liu Yao's place, verifying the ancient precepts of the cycle of cause and effect. Lord Zhuo, is there anything inappropriate about my young master Liu that has angered you? Although Cai Yong referred to him as an adult, his tone did not show any hint of flattery. Cai Yong was well aware of Liu Yi's value, and even if he lost his memory and was ignorant, he would not allow any disrespect towards his guests from the outside world. Are you Cai Yong? Cai Bukai. Zhuo Rong noticed Cai Yong's displeasure and looked at the two plainly dressed people in front of him, his heart full of doubt. The scene before him was vastly different from the famous Cai Yong he had heard of. I am aware of my identity, and whether I believe it or not depends entirely on adults' judgment. My humble abode is rudimentary, and I'm afraid I won't be able to fulfill my status as an adult. Please forgive me. Cai Yong's attitude turned cold in response to Zhuo Rong's questioning, with a hint of farewell in his words. Zhuo Rong intended to defend himself, but was interrupted by Gao Shun at the right time. Zhuo, there's no need to say anything more. Please come back, he said. However, at this moment, Liu Yi's eyes were blank and he turned a blind eye to the current situation. Liu Yi's mental state is erratic, sometimes clear and sometimes chaotic. The words about the Cai Yong dynasty touched the deep memories in his heart, causing him to have a vague self-awareness of his identity, immersing himself in self-exploration, and attempting to piece together a complete self-image. Zhuo Rong failed to perceive the fluctuations in Liu Yi's heart, only feeling ignored and his angry mood even higher. He is narrow-minded and difficult to be grateful, not to mention enduring any contempt. Zhuo Rong suppressed his anger and rationally told him that it was not advisable to cause trouble during the day, so he forced out a stiff smile and announced his departure. Cai Yong didn't spend much time talking to characters like Zhuo Rong, and only used a polite bow as a farewell gesture. Zhuo Rong left with his followers in frustration, and before leaving, he didn't forget to cast a resentful glance at the door of the Cai family. The vast northern region of the Great Han Empire exudes a desolate atmosphere whenever autumn falls. With clear skies and a strong autumn atmosphere, this was originally a time for northern nomadic tribes to hold hunting celebrations, but for them, this autumn hunting was more of a cover for their southern invasion and plunder. In the sharp gaze of the nomadic people, the rich central plains seemed like a readily available and beautiful grassland, waiting for them to harvest. Since the rise of the Xianbei tribe led by Tan Shihui, the northern border of the Han Empire has been in continuous turmoil. Since the 5th year of the Shiping reign, groups of Xianbei iron hooves have crossed the border, causing heavy damage to the territory of the Han dynasty. Jiuyuan, Xi'an, and other places successively fell. Fortunately, with the passing of Tan Shihui, there was division within Xianbei, and the border areas enjoyed a brief period of tranquility before Liu Yi stepped into this world. After leaving the Cai mansion, Rong began plotting revenge against the Cai Yong family in his heart. He had originally planned to postpone his actions to avoid suspicion and ensure that his actions were not easily linked. However, things are unpredictable. Just as the Xianbei tribe has not had a major invasion in recent years and people believe that peace is approaching, the Xianbei people are once again heading south like a storm, sparking a storm of plunder. The news spread to Wuyuan County, and the entire county was immediately shrouded in panic. Border towns like Xianyang have weak city walls and are unable to withstand the iron hooves of the Xianbei army. So, the residents of the town abandoned their homes and fled to the core area of Wuyuan County. Jiuyuan City, seeking refuge. At this critical moment, Rong's revenge plan had to be temporarily shelved. Because even the Cai Yong family, mixed with the crowd of refugees, hurriedly fled to Jiuyuan City to avoid danger. Chapter 7. Meeting Lu Bu for the first time, his mighty demeanor is unparalleled. You are listening at novel-full.audio. Cai Yong and his family embarked on a journey of refuge to Yangzhou in the Han dynasty during the most turbulent and mysterious times. For this trip, their team has added 2 extraordinary travelers, Liu Yi and Gao Shun. After several days of traveling together, even the literati Cai Yong began to realize that Liu Yi was very brave and powerful. Liu Yi, with his extraordinary brute force, even if carrying a heavy burden without anything, gave Cai Yong a sense of peace on the way to escape. The geographical distance from Yangxian County in Xi'an to Jiuyuan County may not be far, but for Cai Yong and his team, who were walking on foot and lacked transportation tools, this journey seemed particularly long and arduous. Especially Cai Yong's wife and daughter Cai Yan, their weak physique is far inferior to the robust physique of Liu Yi and Gao Shun. These 2 warriors, even though carrying the entire family's rations, still walk steadily and vigorously. At the same time, as the defender of Bingzhou, Governor Ding Yuan is urgently dispatching troops to deal with the upcoming crisis. Along the way, the cavalry of the scouts shuttled back and forth, nervous and orderly. This scene made Gao Shun unconsciously let out a heavy sigh. If Liu Yi was in a good mental state, he would be curious to ask why Gao Shun sighed. But at this moment, Liu Yi's mind was in a daze and he asked unexpectedly, "Senior, how do you think those horse meat tastes? It feels like it hasn't been contaminated with meat for a long time." Liu Yi has not tasted meat since he traveled here, and the current situation of the Cai family is fortunate to have grains to satisfy their hunger. Therefore, when Liu Yi saw those galloping horses, the first thing that flashed through his mind was the long-lost fragrance of meat. This statement left Gao Shun speechless for a moment and also made Cai Yong feel a bit embarrassed. As the head of the family, he felt guilty for not providing better protection to his wife and daughter. Gao Shun had no response to Liu Yi's question. He upheld his resolute and upright character and would never engage in theft or robbery. Although Liu Yi's current situation may seem chaotic, through these days of coexistence, Gao Shun deeply respects this young Master Liu and knows that he is essentially a virtuous and talented person. Cai Yong comforted Liu Yi with a gentle tone and said, "Dear nephew, those horses are military supplies and should not be tampered with recklessly. However, rest assured that there will be lamb available for purchase in Jiuyuan City." Cai Yong regarded Liu Yi's longing as a momentary childlike innocence, so he comforted him with it. The mention of lamb is because in the current Han dynasty, cattle and horses were strictly protected, while pork was regarded as a lowly food. The literati class mostly respected lamb, and although beef was occasionally eaten in private, it was rarely supplied on the market. Cai Yong never expected that future generations would have no prejudice against pork. At this moment, Liu Yi's head shows an attractive piece of braised pork belly, and he licks his lips gently without saying more. Whenever fragments of memory are pieced together in his mind, he falls into deep contemplation. Cai Yan heard Liu Yi's teasing and witnessed his father talking to him in a soothing tone. He couldn't help but chuckle and say, "Brother Liu, it's not difficult to eat horse meat. When the Xianbei people arrive, you can take their horses and maybe even receive rewards from the court." Cai Yan understood that Liu Yi had boundless power, and the addition of Gao Shun allowed her to witness Liu Yi's extraordinary martial arts skills. In her pure world, Liu Yi was almost omnipotent, even though she did not fully understand the limitations of personal power in war. In her opinion, with Liu Yi's strength, it was easy to seize the Xianbei horses. She accidentally pointed out a key point in the laws of the Great Han Dynasty, that capturing enemy horses is not only legal, but also meritorious. Cai Yan's words impressed Gao Shun. As an upright person, he had no interest in plundering civilian property, but his treatment of the enemy was completely different. However, he was also aware that unless encountering a lone enemy, a team of cavalry would face a head-on confrontation, and even with exceptional martial arts skills, it would be difficult to fully retreat. At this moment, Liu Yi was lost in thought and had no response to Cai Yan's proposal. Cai Yong originally intended to blame his daughter for her innocence, but when he saw Liu Yi silently pondering, he suppressed the criticism. Cai Yan noticed his father's gaze and realized his mistake. He mischievously stuck out his tongue and smiled, hiding to the side. The group walked and stopped, and the day quietly passed by. As night fell, Gao Shun, relying on his rich marching experience, set up a camp on a windward slope. Cai Yong was exhausted, but Liu Yi and Gao Shun, who were carrying heavy loads, appeared energetic. The next morning, they set off again. In less than an hour, the crowd ahead suddenly became restless, and anxiety quickly spread to Cai Yong and his group. Cai Yong felt uneasy in his heart, and then a large flag embroidered with the character Lu caught his eye. Soon, a group of cavalry appeared, led by a majestic man dressed in silver armor, lined with a crimson battle robe, wearing a phoenix-winged helmet, and holding a square-drawn halberd. The warhorse he dismounted was majestic, but it looked inferior in the presence of his master. This person's imposing demeanor made Cai Yong couldn't help but marvel. "You are truly a brave general. I wonder which one is under the banner of Governor Ding." Gao Shun's eyes remained fixed, sparkling with excitement. "His name is Lu Bu, with the courtesy name Fengxian. He is known for his bravery and unparalleled abilities. He was not a general directly commanded by Governor Ding, but served as the chief clerk. But his heroic deeds in Bingzhou and the grasslands in his early years have long been spread, and he was hailed as a hero on the grasslands at the age of 11. The Fengtian painted halberd in his hand is rare and extremely brave. Although he has heard of it many times, it is the first time he has seen it with his own eyes." Cai Yong was surprised that such a brave person only served as a civil servant and questioned whether Governor Ding's employment was unclear. Lu Bu is deeply trusted by Governor Ding and is said to have become his adopted son. Governor Ding's actions must have profound implications, Gao Shun added. He couldn't help but secretly compare Lv Bu with Liu Yi. But Gao Shun had never witnessed Liu Yi's horseback riding and archery, nor had he personally witnessed Lu Bu's martial arts skills, making it difficult to determine the superiority or inferiority of the two. His gaze turned to Liu Yi and he noticed that the other person was also staring at Lu Bu, his eyes full of surprise, and he murmured softly, "This guy is really tall, he must be suitable for playing basketball." "Basketball? What is this thing?" Lv Bu and hundreds of riders swept past the crowd like a gust of wind, with a formation far exceeding any description. The display of their power made people feel small and insignificant. Except for Liu Yi, who seemed to be indifferent to everything, everyone else showed a look of awe. Gao Shun looked at the distant team and felt a surge in his heart. This is what a man should look like. Chapter 8. Incorporate into the Garrison army and achieve initial ability. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. After LV Fengxian's followers quietly withdrew, Gao Shun remained immersed in emotion. The fleeing crowd around seemed to smell the approaching flames of war, and their steps became increasingly rapid, urgently rushing towards the direction of Jiuyuan ancient city. Just as the outline of the ancient city wall gradually became clear in the field of vision, the thunderous roar of horse hooves echoed from behind. Everyone looked back in panic and saw that LV Fengxian's troops and horses had unexpectedly turned back. This time, hundreds of warhorses swept in like hurricanes, and unfortunately, the people who could not avoid them early issued desperate cries under the iron hooves, suffering from merciless trampling. Someone shouted loudly, "Run away! Xianbei iron cavalry is within reach." Yong, Liu Yi, and a group of people quickly dodged to make way for LV Fengxian's army. Yong witnessed his soldiers recklessly harming innocent people, burning with anger and exclaiming, "How could such arrogant thugs be so reckless with their lives?" Liu Yi also agreed with a clear voice. Such actions should be executed by firing squad. Gao Shun and Yong noticed that Liu Yi's eyes were exceptionally sharp, as if his memory had recovered. But immediately, Liu Yi's words revived their doubts, as if the memory of this young Master Liu had not yet been fully restored. Liu Yi pointed to a overturned carriage by the roadside and murmured to himself, "Strange, how can this carriage be different from what I remember? Oh, why do I call it a carriage? Obviously, this carriage unfortunately overturned while evading the soldiers and horses of LV Fengxian. Yong and Gao Shun have become accustomed to this, and no one has the intention to delve into its implied meaning at this moment. They rushed into Jiuyuan city with the flow of people. Although Yong has status, he has no old friends in Jiuyuan. In times of chaos and turmoil, he didn't care much and, like other refugees, casually found a temporary shelter on a street corner. Liu Yi and Gao Shun unloaded their heavy grain bags. Soon, the smoke of war suddenly rose. The attackers this time are the joint forces of several major tribes and several small tribes in Xianbei, with over 20,000 cavalry. Grassland masters are not good at attacking cities, they prefer to plunder the edges rather than attack the fortifications. Jiuyuan ancient city, as the political center of Wuyuan County, has a low wall of about 6 meters and is in disrepair and dilapidated condition. In the past, Xianbei was strong and once occupied this area, and the city walls were severely damaged. As Xianbei retreated, although the Great Han regained control of the lost land, he was unable to repair the city walls due to the emptiness of the national treasury. Once Liu Yi and his team settled down, soldiers began to gather refugees in an open area. This move aims to prevent spies from infiltrating, facilitate control, and prevent wartime chaos, while screening strong individuals to help defend the city. Liu Yi and Gao Shun met LV Fengxian again. At this moment, Gao Shun's admiration for LV Fengxian had faded from his eyes. LV Fengxian allowed his subordinates to trample on the common people, which made Gao Xuanxin, who had a strong sense of justice, contemptuous. He had not yet witnessed the bravery of LV Fengxian, but had witnessed his coldness, greatly reducing his original admiration in his heart. Although LV Fengxian was the chief clerk under Ding Yuan's command and dealt with documents on a daily basis, he was inherently belligerent and unwilling to be imprisoned in documents. Ding Yuan naturally will not idle this outstanding general during the war. This time, LV Fengxian was appointed by Ding Yuan as an outpost to guard Wuyuan County. Wuyuan County was the birthplace of LV Fengxian, but under the influence of Xianbei power, the LV family once migrated to Hetao. Later, LV Feng joined the army of Ding Yuan, and there were 70,000 brave soldiers under Ding Yuan's command in Bingzhou, all of whom were heroes from the northern regions, making them a formidable force in the Han dynasty. Among them, cavalry accounts for more than half, about 30,000 to 40,000. This time, Ding Yuan specially assigned 3,000 cavalry to command LV Fengxian. Liu Fengxian is known for his bravery in the three armies, always leading the charge in every battle, which is also the key to his reputation as the god of war. This time is no exception, he personally led his troops to scout the enemy situation. Unexpectedly, the Xianbei people were agile in their actions, abandoning other cities and approaching the outskirts of Jiuyuan City. Jiuyuan City is still considered a city, compared to small cities like Xianyang, where the walls are only made of earth, the population is sparse, and they are impoverished, with few troops stationed on weekdays. The Xianbei people, who have a deep understanding of this area, have little interest in such places and are not afraid of the weak defense lines guarded by only a few hundred Han soldiers behind them. The Xianbei vanguard troops arrived at the base of Jiuyuan City, with a total of 3,000 iron cavalry. They had long heard of the name of Lv Fengxian, so they did not provoke the city, but waited for the followed-up army. Liu Fengxian did not rashly go out of the city to fight, as the soldiers on the grassland were agile in their actions, while the cavalry of Bingzhou, with similar numbers, had slightly lower combat effectiveness than Xianbei. At this time, the military strength of the Great Han was no longer comparable to that of the prosperous Han dynasty. Lv Fengxian took this opportunity to mobilize the entire city's strong men. Although they are not regular troops and have not received training, they can serve as auxiliary forces to support the defending soldiers. Liu Yi and Gao Shun were also incorporated into the defense forces of Jiuyuan and assigned to defend the city walls. Liu Yi and Gao Shun thus gained a close-up view of Lv Fengxian. For Liu Yi, this is more like an observation. His mentality is vastly different from that of Gao Shun. Gao Shun had heard of the heroic name of Lv Fengxian in his early years and held him in awe. Although Liu Yi was aware of the name Lv Fengxian, he did not fully understand its meaning and weight, only knowing that his reputation was prominent. Therefore, when it comes to celebrities, he naturally needs to observe them carefully. As for being conscripted into the military, Liu Yi has not fully understood the meaning behind it. Their squad leader was called Li Li and assigned Liu Yi and Gao Shun each an iron-headed wooden spear as weapons. Then, a captain gave a brief admonition, and Liu Yi, Gao Shun, and other new recruits immediately stepped onto the city wall. Liu Yi's vision is remarkable. Even if the Xianbei vanguard troops are not close to the city walls, he can still see clearly. Previously, Lv Fengxian's hundreds of cavalry were already quite powerful, but now the battle of these 3,000 Xianbei iron cavalry is even more spectacular. Liu Yi, who had not yet realized the true face of war, smiled carefree and said, "Brother Gao, why are they gathered here? Judging from their attire, it's really strange that their hair looks so good." Liu Yi's words left Gao Shun speechless, but the underlying meaning surprised Gao Shun and he couldn't help but ask. "Young master, can you recognize the faces of those warriors?" The Xianbei army is stationed 4 miles away from reach. At such a distance, it is almost unbelievable to distinguish the subtle differences in the hairstyles of the opposing soldiers, so Gao Shun was quite shocked by Liu Yi's speech. Chapter 9 is about stuttering, snatching fresh horses, Lv Buzhen. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Gao Shun's face showed surprise, as Liu Yi seemed to be able to penetrate the limitations of distance and gain insight. "That's right, don't you notice it?" Liu Yi nodded, his eyes flickering with a strange light, casting his gaze at Gao Shun, causing him to feel frustrated by this sudden rhetorical question. This young master Liu is not a thing in the pool, Gao Shun silently pondered in his heart. Liu Gongzi's gaze was sharp, like an eagle in the sky. His extraordinary vision made people doubt whether he was a monster dressed in human skin. "Young master, this statement left me speechless. It's so far away, how could ordinary people be as insightful as fire?" Gao Shun replied slightly irritably. The conversation between the two was slightly louder, attracting the attention of Shi Changli. Li Li glared discontentedly, gesturing for them to remain silent. At this critical moment of confrontation between the two armies, any unnecessary noise may trigger severe military punishment, which is not a small matter. Li Li has high hopes for Liu Yi and Gao Shun. Although there are many burly men in the north, there are not many who are as majestic as them. Among the urban defense forces, there are even fewer who can hold great responsibilities. If there are 2 warriors in any team, it will undoubtedly greatly increase the team's chances of survival on the battlefield, even if it is just a glimmer of hope. Liu Yi looked around. Many people in the team are similar to him, all because the newly recruited soldiers are untrained and have loose military discipline. More people are pale as paper due to nervousness and fear. Fortunately, Xianbei did not launch an attack on the first day, and the task of defending the city was relatively easy. Apart from dietary issues, Liu Yi did not realize the hardships of joining the army. However, the poor quality of military rations is annoying. In Cai Yong's family, although they came from a poor family and ate rough and coarse food, they were at least genuine materials. In contrast, Liu Yi found it difficult to access military rations. Lao Gao, is this thing really for people to eat? Liu Yi looked around at everyone and couldn't help but turn to ask Gao Shun. That black and rough object seems to be able to wear off the tip of the tongue and be mixed with a moldy aura. Gao Shun saw Liu Yi struggling to swallow and responded with a bitter smile, "Young master, you were born into a wealthy family and do not understand the suffering of the people. It is fortunate to have this food now, as it is a military treatment. The people in the city who were unable to join the army couldn't even afford this. Selling children and girls, and even exchanging children for food, is often heard of. If you want to eat meat, it is indeed sold in the city, but it is all human and animal meat." Human-animal. What is it? Liu Yi curiously asked, only because he knew that meat was nothing but pigs, cows, sheep, and chickens, and had never heard of the name human-animal. Gao Shunyuan believed that Liu Yi came from a prestigious family, and even secretly speculated about his royal bloodline. Seeing that Liu Yi couldn't bear this hardship, Gao Shun believed it was only natural. "Young master, the so-called human animal refers to the children or wives and daughters sold by the people. The butcher bought it and sold it as pork, at a cheaper price than pigs. So to speak, it's actually human flesh. There is such barbaric behavior in the world, how cruel cannibalism is." Liu Yi was shocked. Gao Shun could only smile bitterly, feeling helpless about Liu Yi's unfamiliarity with the world. Deeply aware of the difficulty in expressing the suffering of the people, Gao Shun lowered his head and forcefully swallowed the military provisions in his hands. Liu Yi, on the other hand, had a bitter expression on his face and looked at everyone, finding it difficult to swallow the food that was not as good as pig food. He suddenly looked up and looked at the overturned carriage outside the city, which he had seen before in the suburbs. As the carriage overturned, a poor horse was beheaded by Lu Bu's men. At that time, everyone rushed into the city in panic, and no one paid attention to the fallen horse. "I have an idea, Gao. You eat first and I'll be back immediately." Liu Yi put down his military provisions, picked up his iron gun, and leaped down the city wall like a great peng spreading its wings. For Liu Yi, the city wall, which was only a few feet high, was just a stone's throw. With this leap, there were screams of surprise everywhere. Liu Yi ran towards the horse with a gun in hand. Upon seeing this, Gao Shun understood and smiled bitterly. This young master Liu is truly fearless for just one bite. Faced with the threat of the Xianbei army outside the city, he ventured alone and left the city. Others were unaware, so they saw him jump off the city wall and stood up to observe. Shi Changli witnessed Liu Yi landing safely and couldn't help but marvel. Everyone was stunned to see Liu Yi running at a speed comparable to a galloping horse. When he picked up the horses outside the city, there was even a commotion, and some even cheered loudly. Upon hearing the sound, Lu Bu, who was patrolling the city, arrived and asked, "What's the noise? Where is the military discipline?" The accompanying people had never witnessed Liu Yi flying down the wall, and there was no response. Liu Bu was full of suspicion and led his own troops to the city. He was about to inquire, but he saw Liu Yi outside the city carrying a dead horse and rushing towards the city. You are truly a hero. Lu Bu's eyes flashed with approval and he sighed. On this battlefield full of killing opportunities, Liu Yi's heroic act was like a lightning bolt, cutting through everyone's sight. That seemingly inconspicuous inferior horse actually weighs over 200 kilograms. Although Liu Bu is famous for his strength, he cannot achieve the same level of strength as Liu Yi, who can still walk briskly with heavy shoulders. Even he couldn't help but cheer for this scene. In the tense confrontation between the two sides, thousands of pairs of eyes witnessed Liu Yi's extraordinary actions. The Xianbei soldiers saw the figure on the city wall and jumped down, mistaking it for a fugitive. They immediately dispatched cavalry to intercept it. However, when they saw clearly that Liu Yi was carrying a dead horse and rushing towards the city wall, they couldn't help but stop in surprise. "Blessed by the gods, this is a true warrior," exclaimed the Xianbei leader. In the eyes of Xianbei people, strength is revered, and Liu Yi's extraordinary physical strength instantly made him regarded as a warrior. They never knew that the simple motive behind Liu Yi's behavior was only to seek a more delicious meal. As the pursuer behind him approached, Liu Yi's pace accelerated, as if there was nothing above his shoulders. The deputy of the Xianbei leader raised a question. "Leader, why did this person carry a horse back to the city?" This question made the leader also begin to ponder the secrets behind it. He dared not take it lightly and immediately ordered a pursuit with the intention of preventing this seemingly simple movement. The soldiers on the city wall couldn't help but secretly worry about Liu Yi when they saw Xianbei chasing after them. Although Liu Bu had some worries in his heart, he did not stop the cheers of the soldiers. On the contrary, these cheers made Liu Yi's footsteps more determined. Gao Shun was well aware of Liu Yi's strength, but he never expected him to handle the heavy burden so easily. However, Liu Yi, after all, was flesh and blood, and his advantage was not obvious in the face of galloping horses with 4 hooves. As the Xianbei people approached step by step, Gao Shun's nervousness grew stronger in his heart. Gao Shun knew that Liu Yi's martial arts and physical strength were extraordinary, and the mere dozens of Xianbei cavalry may not pose a threat. But Liu Yi's family background, lack of practical experience, and simple personality have all become concerns for Gao Shun. On the city wall, everyone shouted in unison for Liu Yi. Under the gaze of everyone, Liu Yi's footprints left marks on the soil. The Xianbei pursuers looked at this incredible speed, feeling both surprised and angry in their hearts. They accelerated their pace and swore not to let Liu Yi go. Liu Bu witnessed all of this and sneered. Although he is known for his cruelty, he also holds respect for the brave. Liu Yi's performance gave him a sense of appreciation. Meanwhile, as the guardian of the soldiers, he does not allow anyone to harm them. Liu Bu drew his bow and arrow, pointing directly at the mount of the Xianbei leader. He shot it with unparalleled accuracy, just like the legend of his later shooting halberds from the gate. Upon seeing this, the Xianbei people were shocked to realize that they had been exposed to enemy arrows, and they all restrained their horses and stopped advancing recklessly. Taking advantage of this moment of hesitation, Liu Yi was as agile as a cunning rabbit and quickly approached the city wall. The crowd in the city was boiling, demanding to pull him up with ropes. Liu Yi raised his head, intending to search for Gao Shun, but he caught the figure of Liu Bu at a glance. He realized that as the defending general, Liu Bu was the most appropriate person to greet at this moment. At this moment, Liu Bu was in a good mood and had forgotten about the previous noise. He looked at Liu Yi and was surprised to find that this brave warrior was so handsome, completely different from his impression of a brave and rough man. Liu Bu waved to Liu Yi, gesturing for him to come up quickly, his heart filled with curiosity. Liu Yi felt happy upon seeing the situation. In order to meet Liu Bu, Liu Yi looked at Gao Shun, inserted his wooden gun into the ground, raised the corpse of his horse with both hands, and shouted to the city, "Gao, take it on, don't let the horse fall into someone else's hands." Gao Shun ignored Liu Yi's proposal and believed it was an impossible task to complete. However, just as he turned around to lay down the rope, Liu Yi threw it fiercely, and the horse corpse actually flew over the city wall. Gao Shun was so shocked that he quickly retreated, unable to believe the scene in front of him. Chapter 10. Natural Divine Power, Climbing the City Wall, Everyone. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The horse's corpse narrowly brushed against the ancient city bricks and ultimately crashed into the city walls. Although it did not cause any harm, it made the people around me tremble with fear, as if feeling the shock of death rubbing against their shoulders. Gao Shun wiped away the cold sweat oozing from his forehead, his heart fluctuating. The power of Prince Liu was such that he could effortlessly throw hundreds of pounds of horse corpses into the city like feathers. This power seems to have surpassed the limits of human beings, even top-notch generals are difficult to reach. Everyone present was stunned and filled with the same level of suspicion. Is this person really a mortal body? LV Bu rubbed his eyes and couldn't believe the scene before him. What he witnessed was not insignificant small animals, but a heavy horse easily thrown over the city wall by a seemingly weak young man. What is even more difficult to accept is that someone's power can surpass his Liu Bu. Although he is hailed as non-human, compared to Liu Yi, LV Bu suddenly feels that his power is still within the realm of humanity. At least, he couldn't throw a horse as lightly as a toy like Liu Yi did. A private guard with a pale face whispered in disbelief, "General, is this really the defender of Jiuyuan City? Could it be some kind of demon that has transformed into a human form wandering here? How could humans have such an incredible power? Even if a deity descended to Earth, it would probably be nothing more than that." Another soldier suddenly recalled, "General LV, I remember. This person was a newly recruited soldier from the fleeing crowd. General, how could such a divine person possibly appear among refugees?" Liu Bu furrowed his brows and demanded, "Do you mean he's a spy?" "No, I believe that even among the Xianbei people, such a brave existence cannot be found. This person may really be some kind of monster," the soldier shook his head and denied. Liu Bu snorted coldly and retorted, "It's rare to see anything strange. He's just a powerful person, how could he be a demon?" He recalled that he was often referred to as a demon child when he was young, and couldn't help but defend Liu Yi. Not far away, Shi Changli wiped away his cold sweat, thinking to himself. What is the true identity of this subordinate? How could he have such incredible power? He intended to ask Gao Shun, but found that Gao Shun was also sweating profusely. He murmured, "Oh my goodness, who exactly is this Liu Gongzi? He can win the respect of Kai Boji and throw the horse corpse onto the city wall. He seems to have taken over all the unique skills in the world alone." The Xianbei little leader stood up from the shock and witnessed Liu Yi's feat, so surprised that his chin almost dropped. For a long time, he murmured to himself, "Everyone, do you think the Han man lost a horse? How do I feel like a little lamb?" A Xianbei soldier jumped off his horse and, disregarding the crisis of the war, knelt down and prayed, "Chief, I think we have met the warrior sent by eternal heaven." The little leader kicked the soldier with a hint of fear in his words. "Nonsense, Chang Shengshan only protects the people of our grassland. How could he give warriors to the Han people? This person must be a demon among the Han people." On the city wall, Gao Shun finally regained his composure. While putting down the rope, he rebuked Liu Yi and said, "Young master, didn't Mr. Cai teach you to think twice when acting? You are so reckless. What should you do if you hit someone?" Liu Yi scratched his head and answered innocently, "I forgot." For Liu Yi's naive answer, Gao Shun was speechless. He was well aware that Liu Yi was sometimes full of wit, and sometimes silly and ridiculous. What is done in wisdom is admirable, but what is done in amnesia is laughable. Just like now, Liu Yi's actions have once again left everyone confused. He actually tied his wooden spear to a rope in front of everyone. Others curiously asked, "Brother, what are you going to do?" "Naturally, I want you to help me pull it up, otherwise I'll throw it again." "What if it hits someone?" Liu Yi answered naturally, and these words caused laughter from all over the city wall. Even Gao Shun couldn't help but smile bitterly. It is beyond the reach of ordinary people for Liu Yi to speak such words so confidently. After tying up his gun, Liu Yi shouted to Gao Shun, "Old Gao, hold on to the rope and don't lose my gun. I can't afford it." He shook his head, ready to pull up Liu Yi's weapon first. However, after loosening the rope, Liu Yi leaned against the city wall, started climbing with his hands and feet on the ground, which surprised Gao Shun and others. Everyone held their breath and stared, not daring to blink. Liu Yi's movements were as agile as monkeys, quickly climbing up the city wall. This scene shocked everyone, including Lu Bu, and even some soldiers unconsciously lost their weapons in their hands. A soldier trembled and asked Liu Yi, "How did you get up?" "Climbing, of course it's climbing," Liu Yi answered lightly. In the late Han Dynasty, rock climbing was not a widely known technique. The walls of Zhouyuan City, due to long-term disrepair, were covered with cracks and protrusions, providing convenience for Liu Yi's climb. For him, this is not difficult, but for others, the ease of climbing the city wall undoubtedly poses a major challenge to the safety of defending the city. Even Lu Bu's face became solemn. The Xianbei people outside the city were amazed and uncertain as they witnessed Liu Yi climbing the wall with his bare hands. The little leader quickly jumped onto his horse's back and shouted, "Withdraw, quickly withdraw. This person must be a demon. Go and report to the king quickly. Demons have emerged among the Han people, and the king needs to be cautious in dealing with them." The Xianbei people hastily retreated, while the people on the city wall were immersed in admiration for Liu Yi. Everyone listened to Liu Yi's talk about climbing skills and secretly felt surprised. This person is none other than the reincarnation of a monkey demon, climbing walls like a flat ground. There was a strange admiration in everyone's eyes, but Liu Yi didn't take it seriously. He was about to deal with the dead horse when he noticed the sound of steady footsteps coming from behind. Looking back, Lv Bu led the personal guard slowly towards him, his face filled with complex emotions.